From directors Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, the men who gave you the Spider-Verse films and the Lego Movie and other such whimsical cinematic experiences, comes Project Hail Mary, starring Ryan Gosling, Sandra Hüller, Lionel Boyce, Milana Vayntrub, and Ken Leung. Some of those people not really in the movie terribly much, but really at its core is Ryan Gosling as a reluctant high school science teacher who gets tapped to come and help save the world, basically. I'm not going to tell you the whole story. Now, initial trailers basically told you that that was the story, which is a really fascinating, fun idea. Somebody who is an average person getting launched into space to help save the world and possibly beyond. That was the first trailer, and I said, ooh, that looks cool. That really looks interesting. I don't want to know any more about it. Then the second trailer came along and was almost entirely focused on something that happens in Act 2 of the film, which again is the majority of the film, Act 2 and 3, but it would have been something that would have been really nice to have been a surprise in the film. So I'm not going to tell you about that. Hopefully you've only ever seen the first trailer, or none at all. This film was super fun. It was so nice to see a film that is about somebody who's smart as the hero, a film that is all about the importance of science and listening to people who know what they're talking about, and experts and scientists, and working together across imaginary boundaries to try to do something that's good for everybody. Again, the basic plot is something is discovered that may basically eat our sun. And somebody who had written a paper years earlier, Ryan Gosling, is taken in by this international organization to try to help figure out what's going on and figure out how to fix it. And ultimately, he finds himself in space on a space station, hurtling toward this strange phenomenon in space. And, will he fix it? Will he not? Will the humanity and beyond survive? It is surprisingly... This movie's PG-13. Now, you cross a certain age, or I did, and I never really looked or paid any attention to what anything was rated anymore, and it's almost a fun game after the fact to try to guess what a film was rated. And this one, I realized there's a moment where Gosling is about to say the F word, and he doesn't. And I was like, ooh, wow, this is a really pretty PG movie. There is like one joke that comes back a couple times that's marginally risque, but it's only if you know what it's referring to. So a kid would have no idea what the joke was about. Other than that, no profanity, no nudity, no violence. The theme of death is touched upon. There are dead bodies over the course of the film, but in a very kind of calm, respectful, not horror movie way. I don't want to reference anything. This movie did make me think of other films. This film made me think of Planet of the Apes at one point. It made me think of Silent Running. It references Close Encounters. Like, it references little things, but not in like a ripoff or obviously somebody saw this movie kind of way more over that. Like, if you've seen those, you can see similarities in them. Overall, it is about a man in space trying to figure out if he has what it takes to do what needs to be done when he's in a situation where you either do it or you don't. And if you don't, the consequences are extremely grave for a lot of people. The effects were amazing. The score was really good in this film. There are moments throughout this film where it just drops to silence, because I'm not sure if you're aware, in space, nobody can hear you scream because there's no sound in space. So all those older movies where you hear explosions and all kinds of noise in space, that was for dramatic effect. There is no sound in space. So occasionally, and when you're used to sitting there watching a film that has nonstop sound, for a split second, whenever the sound drops out, I was like, is something wrong? Did the speakers cut out? But no, it's for dramatic effect. It goes silent. But really funny throughout the film, moving oftentimes throughout the film, very inspiring throughout the film. I hope this is a film that a lot of kids see. I hope a lot of families go to see this. And I hope it inspires the next generation of scientists and physicists and astronauts, and maybe people who believe science is a good thing. So I really enjoyed this film. I don't want to say too much about it. This is being presented in a myriad of formats. You can go see this movie on film. You can see it on 70 millimeter IMAX. You can see this film in IMAX, in Dolby, in 4DX, in Rumble Rama. They actually have put out online a punch card that you could print out and basically like check off all like 7, 8, 9. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to see this film. I saw it in IMAX, so I'll tell you about the IMAX experience. First of all, the sound was really great. Image was really great. The whole thing with IMAX is that it's a differently shaped screen. It's a very tall screen, and sometimes films will say, shot in IMAX, filmed for IMAX. But a lot of the times what you see when you go to see a contemporary narrative film in IMAX, you're just seeing it on a bigger screen with good sound. But this was a case where oftentimes throughout the film, I did notice it was using the full height. When it wasn't using the full height, it was like 235 widescreen, so very wide widescreen, which is a little unusual to see it popping in and out like that. But for the effect scenes, it makes it more immersive when he's floating in front of this planet and all you see in front of you is what he sees, this planet. It was really well used. I do always wonder, though, when I see a film in IMAX and it is a relatively tight close-up on somebody and the image is shaking a little bit due to, camera shake, if that's going to translate well to the 235 experience or if it's going to feel like super cramped. I don't really know. I don't usually see these things in most movies I see these days. I don't really want to see more than once. This movie was really, really good though. And it's I mentioned Milana Vayntrub in this film. A lot of people know, a lot of fans of her online. She was known for I can't remember, some commercial where she wears a collared shirt and it extols the virtues of, I believe it was a cell phone series of commercials. Anyway, she's not in this movie very much, but she is in this movie. And if you're a big fan, hey, you get to see her in IMAX. So that's all I have to say about Project Hail Mary. Very good film. Absolutely something you should be seeing in the theater if you can. If you can afford it, or if you're like me and you have the AMC A-list and it doesn't cost you anymore, see it in the most ridiculously gigantic, loud format you can, because it just adds to the impressiveness of this film. And again, how refreshing it is to see a film that is about decent people doing the right thing and somebody who's smart being the main thrust of the film. In theaters now, Project Hail Mary.